All right, thank you everyone for waiting. Those of you in the room getting dinner. Thank you to those of us who have joined us on Zoom. So we are at Keller Williams Princeton. This is our real estate investing and wealth building panel. I worked in conjunction with our social media task force for this event. I've worked for Keller Williams coming up on 6 years, and I've had the opportunity to learn a lot about wealth building and investing in real estate. And I thought about how I would not have had the opportunity to learn all of this if I hadn't worked in a real estate office. So I wanted to plan an event to share all of this information with the general public, with everyone else on how investing in real estate can build your wealth and really make an impact on your life and the lives of your family members. So I want to start out with thanking everyone who is a part of our panel today. This is able to be a free event because everyone participating is donating their time. So thank you to our wonderful panelists. And I hope we have everyone gets what they're looking for out of this event, and I'm sure we'll have an excellent and beneficial time. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Ricardo, our facilitator for the evening. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Keller Williams Princeton has put on a phenomenal event this evening. I've been working with them for quite some time through social equity efforts to help make our industry more equitable for all. And this event is another example of your leadership and your persistence in being sure that we provide content for people of color and also everyone else who's interested, obviously. So I'm going to get, well, my name is, again, Ricardo Belgrave. I am a team leader for Keller Williams Preferred Properties in LBI, Long Beach Island in South Jersey. I have been in this role for almost, it'll be a year in April. I've been with Keller Williams for 4 years. Just celebrated 4 years at the end of last year. And before that, I was an educator for 10 years in the Atlantic City public school system. I'm born and raised in Atlantic City. I always like to share that. As a matter of fact, I grew up in the first housing project in New Jersey. So the Stanley Homes Village in Atlantic City was the first housing project ever built in the state of New Jersey. And that's where I grew up. That's where I started. And through the efforts of my family and friends in my community, I was able to, quote unquote, make it out and, graduated from college, and then again went to education. And then my wife recruited me into real estate. When she got into the business, she said, this is where you need to be. And here I am, today. And I am honored to be the facilitator for such a great panel. I know Carlton and Amber both personally through, social equity, which I always tell people, one of the greatest things that come out of the Social Equity Task Force initiative is the relationships that I've been able to build and cultivate as a result of that. And this is an example. We also have on Zoom, Amina Blake Foreman, Ryan Butler, and Denise Bennett. So we're gonna have them engaging and interacting with us as well. But I want to start off with having Amber just share, a little bit about yourself and, how you got here to KW.
Well, thank you, Ricardo. It's great to see you and be in your company, as well as Nicole, Frank, and Wendy. Thank you so much for the honor and privilege to be back here before you. Last time I was here, I was invited to moderate a luxury panel here at KW Princeton, which was also a great honor. And so I'm so excited to be back. So I've been in real estate as a salesperson broker for 15 years. I just celebrated my 15-year anniversary. And I know it doesn't even feel like that, but I've been with Keller Williams, I want to say, since 2014. And so I wish I was here longer, right? But, somebody lied to me and told me that it was a cult. Funny enough, the person who told me that, my former broker manager at Rand X, got downsized, and now she's with Keller Williams. It's some good old Coke, and that Kool-Aid tastes really, really good. So nevertheless, so I'm an agent and production first and foremost in Pennsylvania. I'm a realtor, but I'm also a broker of record for New Jersey for 2 brokerages, which I'm affiliated with, KW Mainline and KW Philly. So I oversee a division of about 100 agents, but I'm an agent production first and foremost, like I said, and I just love it. I love the pro bono work that we do with social equity, diversity, active inclusion. It fulfills my life's purpose to lift as I climb, and give opportunity and expose others to opportunities that they may not otherwise have had exposure to. Representation matters. So I'm happy to be a representative. So when certain people see me, they see themselves in the opportunities that could exist. And I'm also, for those who are not from marginalized communities, I'm also, happy to bring those folks along on the journey with us, because many people do have open hearts. They just need help seeing things differently. I'm also a real estate investor of 20 plus years, and that's enough.
Amber has a long resume. She is definitely highly qualified to speak on this and a plethora of topics for sure. Let's go to the Zoom. Amina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to KW?
Awesome. All right. I am Amina Blake Foreman. A little bit about me. I am the mom of two amazing boys, RJ and CJ. And also I have to start adding the wife of an amazing husband, because we always talk about kids and don't tell him. Anyways, I've been here at Keller Williams going on. I'll be celebrating my 13th year anniversary. Spend some short time, literally the first 4 years of the business, I switched companies 3 times, and then I found KW and never looked back. And it's been an amazing journey here. Obviously started as an agent, then joined our ALC, got involved in that, then got a MAPS coach, became a MAPS coach, productivity coach, team leader. So it's really been a journey, not just as an agent, but also within KW leadership. I'm honored to be here and share the stage with my great friend, Amber Noble. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I promise I will be there in person at some point. I can't wait to visit the Princeton folks. And I'm excited to be part of this panel and talk about our wealth building journey and how we can all leave a legacy. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amina. We appreciate you. Legacy, that's one of my favorite words. And it's interesting because I've never thought about the wealth building and legacy connection, but it makes perfect sense. So I'm looking forward to discussing that more as we continue. Thank you, Amina. Ladies first, so we're going to switch over to Denise. Denise, please let us know about yourself and how you got to KW.
Hi, I'm sorry. I have like my kids in the background too. So I'm on double duty right now. So first and foremost, I am a mom of 3. I have a 16-year-old and twin 4-year-olds. I live in Plainsboro, and I have been with KW Princeton since 2020, and very, very happy. Have had some of the best highlights of my career since joining KW. And I have no plans on ever leaving. I'm a part of the cult for life. And it's good to see everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but didn't have a babysitter tonight. So hopefully in the future I can join you all in person. It's nice to meet everyone. So in terms of real estate, I've been licensed for almost 9 years. I started out at Weichert, and it was a good experience, got some good training there, and I kind of followed like the crowd, to be honest. A lot of people went to KW and they just spoke so highly of KW, and now I'm a part of that. I tell everybody that needs good support, good training, and just feeling like you're more than you're a part of a family, kind of more than just someone that's bringing in transactions. This is the environment that will support that. I've been an investor since 2014, and I started out with a multifamily property in Elizabeth, and then I had an experience with a flip property with my cousin, who's a partner of mine in the South. And then recently after downsizing from the multifamily, a 1-bedroom that is more profitable than the multifamily in East Windsor and less overhead. So I have a few different areas of experience in terms of real estate investment.
Awesome. Thank you, Denise. We appreciate that.
Sure.
I say you left off a part. It's culture. That's people to understand and conceptualize how powerful a culture, a strong culture can be. And that's something
That is a root of
Absolutely.
exactly. All right, let's go back to live in person. My good brother Carlton. So Carlton reached out to me when he heard about a social equity program that we were starting in South Jersey. And I believe you saw something on Facebook, and then we kind of connected from there. So we go back almost 2.5 years now. So I was really excited to hear that you were going to be on this panel so we can connect in person, because we haven't seen each other in person maybe 1 or 2 times before. But Carlton, tell us about your journey into real estate, and then in general, how you came to KW.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, everybody. Again, my name is Carlton Badger. They call me the real estate beast. And my career started after I bought my first home. I got licensed right after that. And that was 38 years ago now. And throughout that time, I've done a lot of different things in real estate. I worked for a small boutique company. Well, they were small. Well, they were big then. I won't name them. And then after that, for about 10 years, I had my own brokerage in the city of Trenton. And during that time, I bought 50 houses. And that was a great experience. We managed a lot of property. I did every aspect you can imagine in real estate back then. And then in 2009, I came here to Keller Williams. I've been here since then. And most of my focus is investment. I do residential real estate as well. I do a lot of investment real estate and helping other people become investors in real estate. I love what I do. I will do this until the Lord calls me home. And I hope that's a long time from now, because I love what I'm doing too. So that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlton. And you're a traveler.
Yeah, well, I mean, my kids are grown now, so I have this goal I've had the last 2 years of going on vacation somewhere every month, and I've been keeping up with it. This year I was going to slow down, but it seems it's still going. I just got back from Savannah.
Slow down. How's that been?
Got back from Savannah last month with Houston. And I just found out I'll probably be going to Cabo next month. So
You just found out.
the opportunity came up.
I hope you ever want to inform me.
I see Ryan is back. Ryan Butler on the Zoom. Ryan, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to KW.
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for inviting me out to hang with you guys for a little bit. I really appreciate it, Nicole, for putting this together, and for you guys putting it together, and Nicole for inviting me, and Amber for inviting me and letting me be on this panel. So I'm based out of Washington, D.C. I'm part of Coalition Properties Group, and I have 2 partners. Some of you might have heard of them, Keith James and Harrison Beecher. And excuse me. And I've been doing real estate since 2016, man. And, real estate, it's like dog years. So I feel like I've been in real estate forever now, but I've only been in for like 7 years, right? And I've been, I guess, investing. I look at that first home as investing, and I bought my first home in 2011. And so ever since then, I kind of went down the path. I've done some flips, wholesales. I've done buying wholes. I'm probably primarily known these days in the investment world for multifamily buying whole. So I like multifamily buying whole.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ryan. We appreciate having you on the panel this evening.
Appreciate it.
I want to go back to you. You said you started investing 20 years ago. What was your first investment property? How much did it cost, and where was it at? You mind sharing that story?
So my first investment property was a 3-family, or triplex as they call it in Philadelphia, or multifamily. I still own it to this day.
Wow.
Yes, I'm in the process of finishing up feels like a never-ending rehab because I want to offload it. I know that sounds weird because so many people are like multifamily, but I have somewhat of a different perspective on multifamily. I love multifamily, but I love a certain type of multifamily. So there are certain caveats to it for me. I paid, I want to say $135 for it, which probably seems like a lot. And so I'm going to be listing it probably for about $350. And I'm just deciding if I want to 1031 exchange it, which may go over some people's heads, so we may get into that type of stuff later. Or if I just want to offset through, cost segregation and some of these other crazy terms, depreciation and some other things. I just don't want to take a huge tax hit
Correct.
because of the tax bracket that I'm in, but that was the property. It's in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
It's in a section of Philadelphia known as like Oak Lane, on the East Oak Lane border. So it's right near the suburbs. So if you go 3 minutes up the street, you cross over a major roadway that puts you into the suburbs, which would be like Montgomery County in the Cheltenham, Melrose Park area. So it's a nice area. It's 3 1-bedrooms, 1 baths. And, I could Airbnb it if I wanted to do that. I could traveling nurse offer it. There's a lot of different things I could do with it. But I've just decided that that chapter is ready to be closed. And I want to, leverage those funds elsewhere.
Awesome. So real quick, can you just share 1031 exchange for those who may not understand that concept in real estate? Just briefly, what does that mean?
So the Cliff Notes version of a 1031 exchange is a mechanism that allows you to sell a property and then roll the proceeds over into another property. You have, I think, like a 6-month window. You need to have a specialist, like somebody, they're not like necessarily an attorney or something like that, but somebody who specializes in doing those exchanges, make sure the paperwork is right. And by putting those monies into another property, you basically just constantly delay the process of having to pay the capital gains, pay the taxes on your gain, right? So your capital gains is anything you make above and beyond your cost basis or what you paid.
Yes.
So a lot of wealthy people, like really wealthy people, and moderately wealthy people, they kind of just keep flipping it. They keep rolling the money into another property, roll it into another property, and a 1031 exchange allows you to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. We could go really deep with that. However, we got a lot of questions I want to get to because there's some follow-up there. However, thank you so much for explaining that.
That's enough. That's what I know.
I'm gonna go to Amina on Zoom. How long did it take you to save for your first investment property? So there's a lot of agents who, because when I'm recruiting agents, especially a lot, what I really see happening with this next generation coming up is they're very in tune with the importance of investing. A lot of young people have come to me and asked about wholesaling, and my son, who actually just got into real estate right out of high school, he's licensed now. He wants to buy his first, when he moves out, he wants to buy his first property, and he's talking about financial freedom and wealth building. So there's a lot of information out there. So for people who want to get into investing, can you share about your story, your journey on how you saved up for that first property? Because that first one can kind of be, for the most part, the most difficult. Amina?
Well, I think I'm going to have good news for everyone who thinks it's going to be difficult for that first one, because believe it or not, I got paid on the first property that I bought. So I used my first time home buyer, because I'm in Connecticut. So we have a program, and I think most states have it. We call it the CHAPA DAP, where you get down payment and closing cost assistance. And funny enough, the town that I bought in was a town whose taxes were done in arrears. So when it came time for us to close on the property, the seller always have to kind of give the buyer credit for taxes that are owed that, now they would no longer owe the property, so they have to come current. So I literally walked away from my closing with no money down and a $1,500 check. I was rich. So I know it may not be everybody's story, but I think the message I hope to convey here is think investment first. So actually, if you don't own real estate yet, let your first home be a home that you plan to have become an investment property. So that was my first time buying. It was a 3-family home. I paid $154,000 for that property. I was 19 years old when I bought it. And it turned around where I ended up buying my second home. I was 20. It was about 8 months later. And I technically didn't end up moving into it because I needed to do some repairs. and you do have a window, you have to move in and occupy the property. But then at that point, I was getting married and we decided we were going to buy a single family home. So I moved out of that one, even though I didn't finish renovating it. I ended up renting the floor I was going to go in and moved into a single family. The other cool part of the journey is I ended up getting a divorce, and that single family he got to keep, and I decided I was going to go into a condo. And then when I was able to buy that condo, I bought it with investment in mind again. It's going to be my rebound property. People talk about rebound relationships. I wanted a rebound property. My rebound property was a condo, and I still own that today as well. And I was able to get an owner occupied again on that property. So I only put 3.5% down to purchase that property. Then I finally moved into a single family after that and was still able to buy that at a 5% down because it was still also owner occupied. So of the 10 properties that I own, I physically lived in 4 of them. So I've seen and I've coached other people to do that. Not exactly my way, because I don't expect people to have rebound properties and all of that, but you can do it by design where you can buy a multifamily first, a condo afterwards, and then move into your single family. And now you've accumulated 2 investment properties on your way with minimum down payment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, you dropped a lot of nuggets and jewels. We really appreciate it. Amber, you wanted to touch on something?
Yeah, I wanted to just briefly say, I neglected to say, so my first property was an FHA property. So for those who may not know, the Federal Housing Administration, they subsidize mortgages where they allow you to put down 3.5% if it's going to be owner occupied. At that time, it was 2 years you had to reside in it. I believe it may be changed to a year now, right? And so that was how I got that property. And I did get what's called closing cost assistance from the seller who was motivated at the time. And an FHA loan allows you to get up to 6% assistance from the seller. So I got the property, I only put down 3.5% instead of 20% like some conventional mortgages required. And I was able to get 6% seller's assist concession. So that was how I got the first one.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that. I like how you mentioned that your first home that you purchased was the start of your wealth building and your investing journey. I think that's really important to point out and mention. Same with you, Amber, in terms of the first property you bought being an FHA. That's that's one of the key elements that a lot of people are using now to get into the real estate investment game. Ryan, we're going to go to you. What do you wish you had known before purchasing your first investment property? What's something that you would like to share with the people on Zoom and here live and those who may be interested in getting into investing that you wish you knew prior to?
I don't know if I want to say that it was prior to my first investment property, because I consider the first home an investment property. I consider anything that you buy that's actually an asset, an investment. And so your first home is really an asset as well. Sometimes people might say that, hey, it's not cash flowing, but if you buy a painting and you sell it again, one would argue that's an asset as well. So the thing that I would say is, and this is what I preach a lot, is that owner occupant investing is one of the best ways to be a real estate investor. And so many people want to skip over that. And I'll say, I have this concept called a 30-year real estate plan, right? And on the 30-year real estate plan, the first part of that, all your first initial purchases should be based on your owner occupant purchases. Because once you go to investment, you look different to the bank. Like when you go to buy a home you live in, you look great to a bank. They're like, the government's backing this. You don't got to bring much money. Here's this money and that money and this money. And then when you come to them like an investor, they look at you funny. So, I was in my first investment property, I pledged NACA, NACA. I mean, if you ever did NACA before, it's like joining a fraternity or sorority or something, man. They put you all the way through. So I pledged NACA for my first property, and NAC is such a great program. It made me feel like I was a genius. I wasn't really a genius. It's just NAC was a great program. So like I say, utilize those first-time home buyer programs. Limit the amount of cash you outlay to properties as much as you can initially while you can, because there'll come a point where you can't do that anymore.
Right. Thank you very much, Ryan. Denise, I see you, so you threw something in the chat. Do you want to speak on that? Was that you in the chat?
Oh, yeah, I was just replying to Venkata that you can live, I mean, you can purchase a property that you plan to occupy using the 1031 exchange. And I was also including that, you know, there's another way to avoid capital gains tax outside of the 1031 exchange as well. So I was just saying, if they haven't already, you know, exceeded the one-time exception, the 250,000 single persons allowance, then they can avoid the 1031 exchange, because with my multifamily, you know, once I sold in 2021, early 2021. And I was thinking about using the 1031 exchange, and then the market got like so crazy and people were like going crazy high over asking. And I just didn't want to, you know, use all the money in the new investment. And it just really, it didn't work for me, you know. So I ended up consulting with an accountant, and I went the route of just, you know, using that exception, that one-time exception, and took my time and found the right property that I was able to buy under market value. And you know, I didn't have to do the bidding wars and all that stuff, you know. And so that worked out better for me. So it's just throwing out another option.
The only thing I want to say with that, and I'm not sure because I'm not a CPA, is that I believe the exception applies to your owner-occupied primary residence, because anything that's deemed an investment property, it is subject to, you get $250,000 cap as a single person. As a married couple, you get $500,000, $500,000. But any
Right.
primary, if I'm not mistaken, is still susceptible to gains.
That is correct.
So it's subject to, if you have occupied the property of 2 of the 5 years in the last 5 years. So it's some stipulations in there that, you know, I was able to access to avoid the 1031 exchange, because that time limit, it doesn't seem like it's a lot of time. I mean, it seems like it is a lot of time, but when you're looking for the right property, especially if you're thinking about a home, if you're going to buy a home that you're going to live in, that 6 months go by quickly. You know, we all know that as agents, you could look for the, you know, your perfect home, especially when you're looking at a big profit like that to roll into maybe the dream home or the forever home. 6 months will go by in a snap, and then you're feeling under the gun and you know, not sure what to do. And then you don't want to be pressed to just buy anything just to implement the 1031 rule. Because that's what happened. That's what happened with me.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you very much. Carlton, you mentioned that at some point you were invested in up to 50 homes. I'm curious, how many residential properties have you owned, or do you currently own? And you know, are they all currently rented out? Like, give us an idea of your portfolio, either from you know, your history of investing and also today.
So outside of my first home, which was my primary residence, the first investment property I bought was a 3-family, and my grandfather was my partner. And so, you know, I'm looking to finance it, and all of a sudden he gives me a check for the whole thing.
Wow.
And he had owned real estate most of his life, so he had already done that. So that got me started. And then from there, most of those purchases for those 50 doors happened between 1990 and 2000. And during that time, nobody was buying real estate, believe it or not. Everybody was in the dot boom craze. So everybody was in the stock market. So I managed a lot of property, and because I managed a lot of property, it had me dealing with owners who wanted to sell during that time. So we would try to sell properties, and if we couldn't sell them, then we would offer to buy them. And in 90% of those purchases that I made, they were 100% financing. The owners held the mortgages for me. So what happened for me is I was able to buy them 4, 5, 6, 7 a year, and the owner would hold the financing. And then what I would do a year to a year and a half later, I would refinance them and then go back to the owner, and I'd renegotiate the mortgage with them, because I'd say, listen, I owe you X. If I give you the balance of this much at the end of the month, will you? And they'd say either yes or no. So it's an opportunity to make money on the front end and the back end of it. And you just gotta be straight with people what you're doing. But so that's what I did a lot of during that period of time. And then when 2000 came, I began selling a lot of them, and then got back in again because I did mortgages for a while I was in the business. Well, I did mortgages from 2001 to about 2007 or 8 when the market crashed in mortgages. And so then I came back and spent more time on this side. But then what I began doing with my returns from it is I partnered with some other people who bought bigger properties. So right now we have 30 units that we have, and it's a mix of 8 unit buildings, 6 unit buildings, 3 unit buildings, and they're outside of the city. I started all of my investing in the city of Trenton. And I recommend that to so many people because the price point to get in the city is so inexpensive compared to anything else. But what's good about Trenton is the rents are high. And so I look back that when I bought during the 90s, my average single family was probably $60,000, $60,000. And then they got up to about 120, 125. And then after the mortgage crisis, they dropped back down again, which was amazing. But what didn't happen is the rents went up. Correct. So I was probably getting on a house, a 3-4 bedroom house. I was probably averaging about $850 to $1,000 then. And then now you can get in $1,400 to $2,000 or $1,800 for a similar same size house, but the prices dropped back down. So now we saw this big move over the last, I think 6 years, probably about 2014, 2013, people started coming back into the market and just buying like crazy. So what I really missed out on is I should have wrote the book, How to Buy with No Money Down, because I learned it myself. But it's interesting today is there's just so many people that flood the market with that. It still can be done, but the way it's done is you got to be in the arena, in the street, and talking to people on a regular basis.
Yes.
And it's really about finding what's important to them, and if you can meet what they want and making it work for both parties. So that's really it.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on, thank you very much for sharing that. Shout out to your grandfather, like talking about legacy, right?
Yeah.
And those being able to give and provide to your grandson and or your children in that way is amazing. So,
And my grandfather has 3 grandchildren. I'm the oldest, my
Yes.
brother, and my cousin. All of us do nothing but real estate.
wow,
Which is
I
pretty
love that.
interesting.
That's amazing. And the follow-up question I have is, what's your golden goose deal? Like, what was the one deal where you just, the ROI was just like, you couldn't believe it?
So the interesting thing is that this new generation is ROI.
Yes.
I just looked at the basic numbers. This is what I'm going to pay for it. How much can I rent it for? What are the expenses? And I could always make that work. And that's how I would do it. And sometimes if I overpaid for something because I did want the property, I always made it on the back end. And so those were the transactions where you go in and you say, I owe you 75. Would you take 60 at the end of the month? And all of a sudden they said, well, give me 65. And so I can make it back on the back end. The biggest thing I've learned is you put an offer out to somebody and you stick with your offer. And then if they're not interested, you wait. I've had at least 3 or 4 situations where I made offers to people, and almost a year to the day, they came back to me and said, are you still interested in doing this? And I would buy it at that point. So it's a game of patience.
Correct.
And that's that's the biggest thing I can tell anybody. And I tell my clients that all the time, it's patience. There's a house out there that has everybody's name on it, and we'll find it, but it takes time to get there.
Absolutely.
We've all experienced that, especially the last 4 years, because there's been multiple offers on things, and you have somebody out for months before they buy a house sometimes.
Definitely, definitely. Anyone else on the panel want to share a highlight in your investment portfolio that really kind of, blew the doors off, or just that you just, Amber, and then we'll go to Amina.
So I connected with someone who was going to be sent to me to liquidate like 10 properties in Philadelphia. And it didn't work out because they were going to liquidate the properties to buy the dream house for their spouse way out yonder, out in a different county. And suddenly that person died of a heart attack. And I was just rocked when I got a call from their spouse. And the spouse said, we know we talked to you. My husband has died. He died suddenly of a heart attack. And instead of liquidating all of them, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this many to my son. I'm going to leave this many to the girls. I'm going to do this, that, and the third. But I want to get rid of some of these that have these tenants that I can't take it. I'm over 60. I'm in my 70s. I got time or the patience for this. And so my mindset always used to be, because I come from service, is I have to always list first and put myself last. And what I didn't know until getting many years into this business is that many of my predecessors, my contemporaries, and everybody at a super high level who are doing really, well and are really wealthy in real estate, they look for the opportunity to see if they can purchase and create a relationship with the customer seller first, right? And then if it doesn't work out, then they go, not trying to rob the person or anything, but just saying, hey, I'm an investor, and I just want to let you know I'm qualified. Would you consider selling to me if it's a win-win? And so that was not the first time, but one of the first times that I really said, wait a minute, hold up, before I do this, let me just have a conversation. And when I did that, this person said, I would love to give a young person, to her, I'm young, I'm 47. I would love to give a young person the opportunity to take over these properties, but I'm telling you, they come with a whole lot of headaches. I was like, well, what kind of headaches? There's headaches, there's headaches. And so, and so we had that discussion, and, we had to get creative, but she was willing to unload them to me, and still gave it to her, gave her a fair price, but she was incentivized because she knew that if I put it out in the market, people are going to bid on it, but then there's a whole lot of people that talk a good game and then they can't deliver. And my partner and I were able to deliver. And so I was able to get a collection of properties from her.
Awesome.
And so that was, they require some work, and the tenants are nightmares. But once we are able to get past all the rights that the tenants have, as if landlords don't have any rights, but I digress. Then we're going to put higher paying, more, higher quality tenants in there who want to pay their bills. And we're gonna have a lot of equity in these properties, after we do some work on them.
Correct.
So.
Awesome. Excellent. So that goes to what Carlton was mentioning a few minutes ago in terms of relationships, right? Building relationships, being open and honest and upfront with potential investment partners and potential opportunities is really important.
It's about integrity that
Yes.
for you, tell her what her options were. And I know in my case, I had everybody's house on the market first and exposed it to the market. And when they got to the point after we worked on it to do that, they said, well, what else can we do? I said, well, there's another option is I buy houses. And that's it. And those opportunities come up. If you're in the arena, that's how you find it. You gotta be out here working really to run into that. If you really want to be an investor, you need to be in a marketplace of investments.
Exactly.
You gotta raise your hand
Yes.
and let closed mouths don't get fed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amina, did you want to share a story?
I've got plenty, but I'll pick probably one of my favorites. Okay, so to give specific numbers a little bit to follow along with the deal, This was a bank-owned property that we picked up. My son was 2, he's 13 now, so that was 11 years ago. We bought it for $80,000. We had to put 20,000 into it. I still own that property to today. And I did take out a mortgage on it. I put 20% down, 25% down on this one. And we could sell it today if we wanted to for $350,000. We have people knocking on the doors to buy it. And so I looked at the numbers. So total monthly, we were cash flowing additional 2,000. So that's 24,000 a year. Owned it for 9 years. So that's 216,000. And the gain in equity after the 20,000 put into it. So we bought it at 80 and we put 20 into it. So we were in it total for 100. But personally, because it's only the 25% down plus the renovation costs that were in it. So we're looking, I did the math because I'm like, it's literally 1,266% return on my cash. I were to sell that property today, because that's how you could actually figure out what value you'd get back. I'm not going to sell it. So that number, obviously we'll put more as things age, because we did roofs and all of that, but that's a special one and a special property. That's one of my golden eggs. But I do have to drive that point home about relationships. I closed on a property last week. I put in an offer on one last night that I'm hoping to get accepted. And those were conversations that started with a no. And I respected their decision and decided to walk away from the transaction. And both of them came back. One came back after 2 months. One just came back after 5 months that says, we're ready to sell now. So the key is really building strong relationships like we do in the sales business. And Gary Keller definitely changed my perspective on this at a family reunion. We were in New Orleans, so probably about 5 years ago, when he said, every good deal passes through your hands first. And, you know, like, he's probably said that a million times, but yet they say when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. And that's what I needed to hear in that moment. And from that point on, I just really, every time I was going into a listing, I was analyzing the deal to see, would this make sense for me to buy it? And there are times that speed and how quickly they can get cash in hand is more important than how much they can get. And I always treat everyone fairly, always disclose 100% that I am a licensed real estate agent in the state, and that I do intend to use this property for investment, for a gain, and for a profit, because as a real estate agent, you have to make sure that you disclose that over and over and over. I put it in a separate addendum and I put it in the other conditions. So they have to read it twice whenever I buy a property that could have potentially been a listing. So I know I bunny trailed on that a little bit. It's one of my favorite ones to like look at the deals and see the ROI. And it really boils down to the relationships.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amina. Now, Amber cracked open the can. We're going to open it all the way up. So Ryan, you ready to drink? Here's the question. How have the laws protecting tenants affected you as an owner / landlord? And you're in DC, correct?
Yes.
Jersey things it leans very much towards the tenants. How is it? Give us a little bit of an idea on the scope in DC and how that has impacted you as an investor.
Ooh, you want to go there? Okay. So DC is extremely tenant friendly. In fact, it's so friendly that hear me out on this, guys. This is a true statement. I actually had to hire a tenant relations person on my team because it's so prevalent of an issue that we have to resolve through each and every transaction, particularly on the multifamily side. On the single family side, they've kind of eliminated some of the issues. It's still a problem. It could take months or it could take a year to get someone out who's not paying, et cetera. But to show you how deep it is on the multifamily 2+ units, we have something called TOPA. That's the tenant, is basically the tenant's right to buy, tenant opportunity to purchase act. And so the tenants have the opportunity, first right of refusal to purchase a property. And so that's all well and good. Great, like compete, right? However, the tenant can sell or can assign their rights to someone else for a price similar to a wholesale.
What?
Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. So the tenant can say, now most tenants don't even think about it, but what you have are you got vultures that come in and say, hey, tenants, you need to make sure you get paid on this. Why don't you assign me the rights and I'll give you some of the money? And that money, I mean, this is not little money. We're talking 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000, depending on the size. And that's per tenant. So that could be $200,000 that this guy's basically trying to shake you. You know, I haven't seen any gals, so it's all been guys that's trying to shake you down for a couple $100,000 because you're just trying to have a standard transaction. That's why DC has some of the lowest multifamily transactions in the country, like per capita. And so how I've dealt with that personally is I actually don't invest in DC multifamily. I would do single family, but my criteria is, you know, I lean left, but my money goes to the right. So I go to a red state. I buy properties in red states. I give in blue states, but my money goes to the red states for my business. So all of my properties are actually, all right. I do have some property in Baltimore. I got a 22 unit portfolio up there, but that's only because I partnered with some buddies of mine that really know the Baltimore landlord tenant game up there. So most of my stuff, I got 28 units in Virginia, and then I have I got 168 units in Georgia. So like if they lean red, I'm more more interested in there because I know typically the landlord tenant laws are more landlord friendly than tenant friendly. And I'm gonna do the right thing on my end. I just don't want nobody to force me to do something, force me to do something.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you shared in good business practice in terms of not letting the political cloud the best judgment for you as a business and investor owner, right? So thank you very much for that, Ryan. Appreciate it. Denise, so what advice can you give on avoiding bad tenant situations? Is there some nuggets or some best practices that you can offer to people for, who want to hold and have tenants and, just maybe some things that have worked for you and maybe some mistakes that you made that you won't do again?
Yeah, well, for one, do not lead with your emotions. Don't be a sucker. I mean, I hate to say it like that because I'm a person that I'm a mom, so I will always lend myself to someone that's in a situation where children are affected or potentially going to, be out of housing, and don't rush your process, don't rush your vetting process, and make sure you get references, because I have literally been called in the evening, we're getting evicted because the house is not fit for housing, and our landlord is not helping us in any way, and we have a baby and an older child, and we need somewhere to move in 2 days. And I've been like, really? Okay, maybe this is God calling on me to help someone, and just kind of rushed through my process, didn't verify all of the income, and it just ended badly. Luckily I've only had 2 tenants that didn't pay their rent out of all these years, and I had to go through the actual court eviction process once. And in my experience in New Jersey at the time, it was pretty swift. You know, I didn't have the tenant fighting me to stay. You know, after the judgment was entered against them. So, and it wasn't very costly to me, outside of a couple of months, rent being lost, like 1 month not paid, rent unpaid, and then the next month, was basically a vacant month. And, but then I, you know, had the blessing of having a long-term tenant that paid every single month with no problems after that. But that's one thing that I learned. Just don't rush your screening process, for sure. I think NTN, being implemented has drastically changed that and helped the process, with getting people, verified and their qualifications verified. But also, you know, don't lead with emotions. Leave your emotions out of the business. For sure.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. I'm gonna open
I
this.
just want to say something
Oh, yeah,
about landlord
please.
tenant in New Jersey. Landlord tenant in New Jersey is more of a landlord state in the sense that if you don't pay, you can't stay. So you go to court for non-payment of rent, you gotta go if you don't have the money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's Hands or buts. You don't have the money, the judge is ruling in your behalf.
Are you seeing that in the post-pandemic era?
Yeah, I was there today.
Yeah.
We lost some money today only because of our accounting a little bit. But the bottom line is she doesn't pay that $2,200 a day, she's gone. And it's a little bit more time. She's got probably 4 days after that, the warrant for removal goes in, but she's gonna be gone if she didn't have that balance. So, yeah.
Carlton makes a good point, and you bring up a good point, because COVID changed a lot
It
of
has.
things. And it really, you know, it really gave tenants, some of whom had legitimate needs, but those who were some people who were just scammers.
Oh,
To
yeah,
take
they took advantage of it,
advantage,
yes.
You know,
They-
my partners like had to get crazy amounts of tenants, you know, take them to court. And in Pennsylvania, where I own some of my properties, I own Jersey property too, it's very pro-tenant.
Yeah.
Philadelphia in particular is like crazy pro-tenant, almost to the point where I feel like I work for the tenants. We feel like we work for the tenants, and that drives me nuts. I think Governor Murphy, you know, whatever people can say what they want, but Jersey is run like a business. He's a businessman and he's a multimillionaire. He runs Jersey like a well-run business. So whether you like his politics or not, this state is far more landlord friendly, to his point, even post-COVID, because they're like, oh, COVID's over, back to business, y'all gonna pay, you know, but I can't say the same for
It is
Pennsylvania.
back in person again now, so it used to be on Zoom, which
Correct.
was really crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing that's changed in New Jersey is the time it takes you to get into court. It used to be 2 to 3 weeks, now it's a month almost, so you
Correct.
should file early if you have an issue.
Exactly. Thank you. Open up to the whole panel. Do any of you invest in commercial? And if so, what type of commercial deals have you done or you currently have? Anyone? Nope? All residential?
Ryan says he wishes.
So I'm looking to get into more commercial as we speak. I'm really interested in multi-use properties, and multi-use would be like some units upstairs, even though I said I didn't want multifamily. So I do want multifamily. Let me just give a little caveat. I no longer want multifamily like the ones I've owned, where it's like 3 tenants that all living together, and they either hate each other and then they start driving
It's all
me
part of
crazy,
it.
or they gang up on me, or the property management company, or they start dating each other and things get crazy, right? I would like a multifamily building where there is some level of separation, kind of like what Carlton says. So if I could get maybe quads or some double quads, like 8 units, where the neighbors almost don't even know each other. I would love to do that, and that falls more in the commercial realm. Again, I'm also interested in multi-use, like mixed use, where it's like on the first floor, it could be office, it could be event space, it could be whatever, and then tenants upstairs. And I'm also interested in warehouse space and things that could be used for other reasons. So Ryan, Amina, all y'all, Denise, anybody who wants to partner up, anybody got any leads? I'm raising my hand and letting you all know.
I'll let me. I'm always looking for deals and partners.
It's a little more challenging always to deal with a building that has common areas. I have a 5-unit with a common hallway, and you're getting complaints all the time. They're running around upstairs or they're yelling in the hallway. It's crazy, but when they're separate units, garden style units, it's so much easier. So
Awesome. How has-
Hamilton has a lot of multi-use properties, investment options for you. Hamilton is like, a lot of storefront with apartment or 2 upstairs. There's a bunch of those right now.
The only thing with Jersey that drives me nuts is that the taxes. So Jersey taxes are so high that it really is a volume business, right? You need to be in an area where the rents are super high, to Carlton's point, or you're getting Section 8, so your money is guaranteed, but it's on the lower end of the tax base. That is the thing that's cost prohibitive with Jersey, because I would love to be out in Monmouth County and Ocean County, some of these places, but when your taxes are $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 and your rent can only go but so far, right? Your cash on cash return is kind of difficult.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I like the multifamily. I haven't really done a lot on the more traditional commercial space, meaning like office buildings. I've actually made some offers on some things. I made an offer for a property. It was like it was a mid-rise. I think I offered like 8 million for it. That was the last one, but then COVID really started beating up office space. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay over here, right? Like I know this pretty good over here. So I've kind of just leaned into the spaces where I'm most familiar. I do like other forms of residential, residential commercial space, if you will. Like I like mobile home parks. I like storage units. That's more probably traditional commercial. So that's kind of like the areas that I like to play. But when it comes to like office, hotels, those types of things, my risk tolerance is too low for that. And they have higher risks. Like they have higher returns, just like Airbnb is going to make more money than a traditional rental. But also there's just more risk to Airbnb with occupancy, that type of thing. And also like, it's a hospitality business at that point. So my multifamily, my biggest thing that I would say is buy a cash flowing asset. Like no matter what you do, like no matter where it's at, like buy a cash flowing asset. And sometimes you might have to renovate it a little bit before it cash flows. But when you buy things that don't cash flow, you put your money at risk because that means you're going to have to go work and earn money to pay that difference of something that's like an asset that has a negative cash flow. So I think that's really important. And it's such a basic principle, but we try to get really creative on a lot of different things. And we want to be so creative. But wealth is built doing something really boring over and over and over again. The complexity is in the scale. The actual business itself, the actual part of the business itself is really simple. And you guys are in real estate, you already know what it is. It's buying something that's cash flowing, that has positive equity. So now how can you do that 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times? You might only need 10 though, right? Like 10 homes might be what you need. Like don't go looking and see what other people are doing all the time. Like see what they're doing because it's interesting and that might be like your calling and you just hadn't fallen into it yet. But it also might look and say like, I really shouldn't be doing that. I got a friend who's like in their mid 50s and all this multifamily and all this fancy commercial talk is going on. And they just like to buy like 1 or 2 homes a year cash. And they're in North Carolina and they buy like, anywhere from like 65,000 to like 100,000. And they buy cash and it rents for $1,200, $1,300. And like, life's good. It's like, they got like a dozen of those. Like you already won the game. You got the money that most people are trying to get, $10,000+ a month. So I know I kind of went a couple different places, but I just started.
Thank you very much. Last question for the panel, and this is open to anyone who'd like to share. What systems, models, or mindset pieces have you gained from whether it be Keller Williams specifically, or maybe a mentor or something that you think has added the most value to you as a real estate investor? I would like you to lean more towards KW, so the Millionaire Real Estate Investment book, if you've read that, or, maybe some of the wealth building Wednesday classes that you've gone to. Has Keller Williams in particular helped you in your real estate investment journey, and if so, how?
I can jump in on that one. I've definitely read the MRE a few times. I actually started gifting it to our clients instead of buying candles and cutting boards and all of that. So we can turn a client from a one-time purchase to multiple purchases. But the part in that book, and I don't remember if it's that one or Hold, because I've read them both, where it talks about like mastering a certain market. Now, just about all of my real estate investments are within like a 20-mile radius from each other. Yes, there's some volatility to that because if the market changes drastically in that area, but I can literally make offers without even going to see the properties now because I've mastered that market so well. I think it was in Hold. So that was one of the biggest things. And then to reiterate what Gary Keller said about every good deal passes through your hands first, that was, when you talk about like turning points in your life, that was definitely one for me. And I'm also a member of KW Wealth, and that has changed the game for me in the past few months about scaling what I do and more creative ways to structure deals, and just being in the room with people who are like-minded and being on those Wednesday calls. That has, again, leaps and bounds in the past 5 months that I've been involved in that.
That's a community. KW Wealth is a community of investors, of people who are interested in investing, like-minded people coming together, discussing best practices and offering and sharing advice and information. Anyone else?
And the MREA book, for people that may not know what that is.
Yes, so the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? And then we have Millionaire Real Estate Investor book as well. Then, Amina, you mentioned The Hold, which is another book written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Is that Jay too? Or okay, awesome. Any last?
I think that was with what's the lady down in Texas?
Linda McKissick.
McKissick, yeah. I'm sure Jay probably wrote it, but yeah, he writes everything.
Any last things that you guys want to share before we transition to our next phase?
I would say with Keller Williams, I think that profit share for me has been a game changer, because by me introducing people to the company, they're going to get a real estate license, they're going to do business somewhere, but me showing them the value proposition of being here, it's helped me to create different verticals, meaning lines of business opportunity. So when you become a realtor, a real estate agent, people just think of being a real estate agent, but under being a real estate agent here at Keller Williams, you can be, you can do referrals, right? Where you don't even have to sell the house. You're just a plug, as the millennials say, you're the plug. So you're the connector, you get money off of that. That's one business vertical, right? And then in addition to that, you may have profit share, which is how you make additional, ancillary money from introducing people to the company. I've used my profit share that I've earned over the time I've been here to fund real estate deals, right? So my profit share, I'm happy to say in my time here, it's not $1 million, but I've made over $30,000 in profit share. That's just for, that's not money come from the agents. That's the owners of the market center splitting their profits, right? Because I'm helping the company grow. So I've bought homes, right, for cash, take my profit share money, be in my own bank, and then putting it back. Right. And so I think the mindset that I've gotten just being here, seeing so many entrepreneurs that are making money and becoming multimillionaires off of way more than just selling houses. And these creative ways, as Amina spoke to KW Wealth, and just being inspired by when I met Ryan, when Ryan had just, I don't know, Ryan, you might just been licensed not that long. This dude done turned into the Black Trump. Like he just
wait now, slow it down now.
in a good way. But I mean, he is scaled, and I'm just so proud. I'm so proud to know him. I'm so proud to know Amin. I'm so proud to know all of you, right? And you my friend too now, right? Because I know people who are not, dependent upon a paycheck. That if they wanted to really retire today, they could probably find a way. And so I think being with Keller Williams and being a partner and a stakeholder in this particular company, which is interdependent, meaning you have independence, but you got people you can depend on, versus an independent company, don't touch my stuff, don't look at my stuff. Or being in a different real estate brokerage where they want you to depend on them so you can't ever go anywhere, and so you hit a ceiling. The possibilities in this company have reaffirmed for me that they are endless.
Correct.
And so, that's it. We're proof of it.
Exactly. Awesome.
I just love the camaraderie, and I love the the hill I'm gonna die on is on group economics. I fundamentally believe that group economics is the way for minority communities to increase their wealth to catch up with other, majority communities. I think that is the only way that we're going to get out of the rut that we're in, meaning like, what percentage of home ownerships do we have? What percentage of wealth do we have? What's in our bank account? It's getting lower and lower and lower. And the only way we're actually going to overcome that is through group economics. And I think KW in a lot of ways facilitates the concept of partnership. I only know KW, it's my first and only love. That's what I came into the brokerage with. But I just hear other people when they come from other brokerages about how they just, like what Amber's just saying, like they don't share any information. They don't want anybody to get ahead of them. It's like there's this collaborative feel here that makes you feel like, man, everybody's, we're all working through this together. And like taking that to the next level, especially in these communities that we've been developing, I think is what I believe will help us move the ball forward.
I'm just going to piggyback on that to talk about just, if you haven't read the book Lifestyle Investor, that's a really, really awesome book to read. And
Justin's last name.
Oh, yes.
Justin
Yes.
Donald, yeah.
Lifestyle investor. Yes.
Will change your life. Easy read.
Okay, so read the book Lifestyle Investor, surround yourself with people. I've told anyone, you can always hit me up on Facebook, wherever, ask a question to build your confidence. Don't be afraid to jump in and do your first one. This industry. But one of the concepts though around lifetime investing and passive income is we spend money on so many different things. Don't be afraid to put certain things on pause. Like, I was not the person to be wearing branded clothes and all these different, my current husband bought me a beautiful diamond ring and I told him, return it, give me the cash so I can put a down payment on a house. And every time I drive by, I'll be me. So it's just, don't be afraid to delay some of those things. Buy the asset first, let it cash flow, and then let it fund your lifestyle. And I think you'll find that once you switch that mindset, you can accumulate the money faster to be able to go ahead and start investing. So see how you might make a couple of changes in your lifestyle. It's not that, trust me, I like nice things, have nice cars, have a nice house, all of that. However, passive income is funding basically all of it.
And one thing my partner always told me is you need to buy the asset that's going to fund. Like Amina said, buy that thing. You want that thing, you want designer, that's fine. But don't take your paycheck, right, or your commission check to do that if you can avoid it. Have that thing so when that money is coming in, if you want to take that rent money you got, whatever your positive cash flow, to Amina's point, specifically seek out those opportunities, because that's what a lot of wealthy people do. They don't even touch many of them. Like the real pool of money, they got the play money coming off of the passive, to Amina's point, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks again to our panelists today. Really appreciate it.
All right, great. Thank you so much to our panelists. We are going to transition to our strategic alliances panelists, but one more round of applause for our real estate panelists. Thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you so much. I just need one more
so much.
Zoom. And if our strategic alliance partners would mind joining us up front, that would be great. I will unpin Aren't they?
Are you go down?
Are you good?
Okay.
Okay.
It's actually a little bit like, yeah. Feel like on a boat.
You feel like you're on a boat?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So just to reintroduce myself again, because I know we had a couple late joiners. My name's Nicole. I'm the Director of Aid Services for Princeton. So first I'd like to start off if you wouldn't mind all introducing yourselves, and I'll start with you, Melissa.
Okay, do you want a very brief overview or just like, hey, I do this?
Let's do a brief overview.
Okay. I actually started my career in general, not in title insurance. I actually did international toy sales. So I worked with Walmart, Toys R Us, Big Lots, all of those. And I actually flew back and forth to Hong Kong and worked with the buyers in the facilities there. I did that for a couple years and I was like, I don't want to live in Hong Kong by myself anymore. And I do not want to fly 19 hours there and 19 hours back. So I actually did something I can't believe I did still to this day. But I went to my boss and I basically said, can I have a severance package? I want to leave. And that was the youngness in me. And he was just like, what are you talking about? No, you can't leave. And I'm like, no, I want to leave. So he gave me a severance. I worked in child life for 5 years, volunteering. And then I was like, all right, well, so I guess you need a job. So I sent a blast email out to every single person that I ever met or known and family. And I said, this is my skill set, and what do you think I could do? And does anyone know any jobs that are available? And I actually got 3 job offers, all in title insurance, which is why I'm here today. So I've had the pleasure of, for the past 5 years, I've been doing this for 10, to be able to work for Keller Williams and Princeton's joint venture, Keller Title. And they've been wonderful to me, and hopefully they think that I've been wonderful to them. And that's that. I'm here today.
Great, thanks, Melissa. Awesome. Well, my passion is to elevate people's wealth and to elevate humanity. So and I'm Pinky Shaw. I am a mortgage lender. And like Melissa, I didn't grow up wanting to be a mortgage lender or a title insurance agent, right? Yeah. I thought I was going to be a pharmacist. I went to pharmacy school, got my doctorate, and I worked at Johnson & Johnson for a bit. And quality of life, and my father, what drove me to the mortgage industry at first. My father owned a mortgage brokerage and told me that I should come try out the waters here. And so I did part-time while I played the role of full-time mom, happily. And then at some point was fortunate enough to be able to make the decision, give up my Johnson & Johnson stability and be able to come do this full-time. And that was over 10 years ago now. And it's been such a blessing. And I had my father help me with my first investment property. And it was such a blessing because I will tell you what it does is it gives your family this stability that you may not expect. My husband grew up in a place where his first year college tuition bill, the check that his parents sent bounced, and he was almost deregistered from his classes. So he grew up with, when we were married, when we first got married and had our children, that was his biggest fear, is I need to pay for my kids' college education, and we will not ever be in that position. I will never put my kids in that position. He was so driven by it that it was almost became a fear, and it became obsessive about it. So there was a point where we said, it's like, listen, we've got these investment properties. we will not sell these two properties, and this will be Anya and this will be Jaden's college funds. So can we like chill here, right? Can we not be so obsessed? Can you come home at night? Can you be with the kids, right? And so that allowed us the freedom. When he realized, like, it took a little bit before it actually sunk in for him, but the minute it sunk in, our whole quality of life just improved. So it's also like, we talk about it from growing wealth, but it's also just helps families in a way that may not be thought of. So I just want to also speak to that part of it from personal experience, how it can really just make a huge difference in your family's happiness.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Jason. I'm also a mortgage lender. I'm with Jersey Mortgage. For 25 years, I pastored. So I came out of that venue. I have 4 kids. All of them, my son, who is the youngest, just went into the Air Force. So super proud of him as he graduated high school. So I've been doing this about 5 years. Love working with people. I'm just naturally geared, I guess, to people person. And I love the concept. One of the highlights of my life was buying my first house, and ended up getting a 2-family here in New Jersey. And now I've moved. I've got about 3 investment properties. So not a big player like Carlton here, but I certainly enjoy doing it. And I love breaking the poverty mindset. So many people are in this, oh, I can't afford it, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. And I love working, especially with first-time buyers, just to say, hey, this is possible. Let's set up a game plan and follow that game plan to get those dreams going.
Absolutely. So I think that leads well into the first thing I wanted to ask you about, which is actually the DREAM program.
Right.
So I think one of the common topics I heard on the first part of our panel was people using their first home purchase as like their kind of step into investing. So how can the DREAM Home program help somebody make that first home purchase?
Dream Home program is a local investor to New Jersey. So they're not like, if you understand mortgages, and I'm sure many of you do, there's investors that set the interest rate. Mortgage companies don't do that. But the investors local to New Jersey, and they wanted to help low to moderate income level homes. There's a census tract, and they determine what's low and moderate. So in Newark or Trenton, you're going to find more of these homes available than you will in Bedminster. The DREAM program is a 5% down conventional loan. They waive the mortgage insurance, which is huge, and it can be used for a 1 to 2 family. Now, it started out at 4% interest rate, and since then, I think they've raised it to 5%. So it's still a very affordable program. And
You said no PMI?
I'm sorry?
You said no PMI?
No PMI. Minimum credit score for a single family would be 660. And then credit score for a multifamily, or it really just goes to a 2-family. So it doesn't do 3 or 4, but it's a 680. So that, things slow down if interest rates went up, and for mortgage people, it kind of came to a screeching halt in many ways. But thankfully, our company partnered with this local investor, and we have, that saved me because that's a lot of my pipeline right now. So,
Yeah, it sounds like a great program to create opportunities for
It
people that might not be able to
absolutely
enter
is.
the
Yeah, and if they
industry.
get into that mindset, like many of them were sharing today, get that multifamily right out the gate and immediately start generating income. That's the mistake I made. I had a 2-family, and I was like, oh, I'm too busy moving into my own home. And it took me 6 months before I rented it out. And I think that was a mistake. Like, the sooner you get that cash flow going, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pinky, I know you've spoken with us previously on how if you purchase that first home, right? Like you've got one home down, how do we move forward to purchase an investment property? Do we borrow more money? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, and kind of feeding off what Jason just said, the concept of using a small down payment on that first home, right? And I think, Amina, so a couple people referenced this, but I love the house hack, if you will, right? It's a trending term, so I'm going to use that one, right? But it really is, because I tell my first-time home buyers this all the time, is buy that first home. You can either use a program like the one Jason described, or even FHA, right? Where you buy a multifamily home, buy that multifamily home because you can use an FHA loan and do 3.5%. If you go over 3-4 units, you can't do a small down payment anymore. So as a first-time home buyer, buy that. You're required to live in it for 1 year. You live in it for 1 year, and then you buy that next home. And now you can use a conventional loan if you want, right? And on the second home, you have to put a minimum of 5% down. You live in that property for another year, start collecting rent. You can use the rent from property 1 to qualify, by the way, right? And conventional loans, you can do this up to 10 times. So you can have up to 10, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loans, and you can keep doing that and building a portfolio for yourself, keep feeding off of the previous property and keep your minimum outlay, or keep that outlay to a minimum. Unless you get someone doing seller financing, as Colin said, that's phenomenal, but it's not easy to come by, right? Not easy to come by. So in lieu of that, then this is another option to start building your portfolio. And I mean, the wealth generation from investment properties is just phenomenal.
What if I didn't get a multifamily home? Like,
You
what
could
if your
still do the
first
same
home
thing.
purchase? 'Cause I'm sure some people watching, I saw a lot of comments.
Yeah,
I wish I had seen this 5 years ago. I wish I'd seen this months ago.
same principle applies.
Okay.
So the same principle applies. It's just the reason I say multifamily is because if your second, third, fourth are multifamily homes, you can't do the 5% down anymore.
Okay.
So if you wanted any multifamilies, that first one's where you get away with that small down payment easier. So you can certainly do those later, but that's the reason that I suggested if you do it the first time. But if not, a single family condo, any of those work, and it's still perfect for this, strategy of building wealth with minimal outlay on your own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Filling out your taxes after you get that first is critically important because lenders are going to look at your taxes on the income that you put in. Typically, a tax accountant is going to say, take as many deductions as you can to lower your income bracket so you pay less taxes. But if you're planning on making this a strategy, you can take some taxes and maybe depreciate the house some. And then that depreciation gets added back in. But how you fill out, I can't tell you how many people make a ton of money and you can see it, obviously, but the way they filled out their taxes kind of keeps them from taking that next step.
Right.
So be willing to take the sacrifice up front during tax season, which we're in right now,
Mhm.
so that you don't end up hurting yourself for the long-term game.
Well, and making sure CPA is part of your team too, right?
Yeah,
Not just
exactly.
a good
There you
mortgage
go. That's
lender, a
exactly
real
it.
estate
That'd be
agent, but a
brilliant.
CPA who's also aware of your goals.
Right.
Right, who's not, they know your goal is not just to maintain as much money right now, but it's also, I need to make sure I'm set up to invest my next.
And I tell my clients, look, have your CPA call me, because I'm gonna tell them exactly what we're gonna need to qualify. And that way I work directly with CPA, because when you talk to people, it doesn't necessarily register what you're saying. Sometimes the lights are on, but nobody's home. So you just say, listen, let me talk with the right person, and that way we're setting you up for success.
Right. And it's just a lot to digest, right? If you're not.
It
used to
is.
this
Too much
strategy.
at one
drinking
time.
from a
Yeah,
fire.
it's a lot too. And we do these annual reviews with our clients as well. So we get to keep coaching them through this process because in the spirit of what we just talked about, it's so much to digest all at once.
Right.
So it's, let's buy this next year. We're gonna have another conversation. All right, are we on pace? Start saving. And so we have these conversations, we can help them build that portfolio. Yeah.
Something we heard in the first part of the panel too is dealing with tenants, right? Or like headaches that can come with investment properties. How can title help us avoid some of those headaches when we're purchasing investment properties?
Well, first of all, investors always want everything protected, as anyone would. So when you're in the beginning stages of buying an investment property, I can certainly run searches for you to make sure there's no liens or judgments or anything that, no encumbrances that would hurt you from getting what you want in the end is, income from this place. No one wants to be buying anything and having to pay for anyone else's anything for that matter.
Okay, good. Thanks, Melissa. Pinky, I believe you had some slides prepared. Do you want me to go ahead and pull those up?
Sure.
Okay,
I like
awesome.
So, or Nicole, maybe you know this, but of the people that are listening on Zoom and otherwise, how many own properties already versus how many have not owned?
I am not sure. If
Okay.
anyone wants to pop in the chat.
Raise your hand and let
will-
us know, just so we can
Yes.
get a sense of.
The vibe I was getting was that we have mostly homeowners.
Okay, so then we can skip past a couple of the things that I had
Okay.
in there, just that's why I wanted to get a sense of.
Yeah.
Um,
Any like
Oh,
rentals?
by the way,
in
can you just go back to that for a quick
Of
second, the
course.
first one? So I do believe that education is the key to getting great at all of this, right? And it's not gonna happen overnight in the spirit of the conversation we just had, that it's a lot to take in. So if anyone is interested, on Instagram, I do little reels on a regular basis that talk about home ownership and reels. So I'm at Pinky Mortgage. So if anyone wants to follow, you'll be able to get some information and just keep learning little chunks, bite-sized information at a time. So just wanted to share that. Okay, thank you. I see someone said they're a homeowner.
And we got a renter too. So it looks like we have a mix.
Okay, so I'll just touch real brief if you go to the renter homeowner.
And it's at Pinky Mortgage for all of your social, correct? If they can get that QR code.
Yeah, it's Pinky Mortgage. On Facebook, it's Pinky Mortgage Team.
Okay.
Yeah. Homeowner seeking to purchase. Okay. So just some basics, that first one, if you go back to it.
Yeah.
To keep in mind is some things to figure out if you're ready or not, right? To make a purchase, because this is some place where people don't ever pick up the phone and call someone like us because they're worried that they self-eliminated themselves many times is what happens, right? So don't do that would be the first step. I would say talk to a lender, find out and let them help you figure it out. But some other things to think about is, do you have a steady income would be a question to ask, right? Are you paying your bills on time? What's your credit score look like? And are you current on making your mortgage payments if you are a homeowner? So some different things for you to just keep in mind. Do you have money in the bank, right? Those are some things that you want to keep in mind to figure out if it's even the right time or not. So don't be too harsh on yourself and eliminate yourself from the process, because some people are closer than they think they really are.
Absolutely.
So that's like just number one. I hear so many people like, I don't think I could buy a home, and literally have a conversation with somebody tomorrow who was sure they weren't gonna be able to buy a home, and they qualified for like a 350 home, so, and they thought they wouldn't be able to buy anything.
But they took the step in talking to you.
They did take the
So
step.
I think that's an important piece too, and I'm sure all the agents on here can relate to that, is having a good lender to recommend people to speak with so that they can put those pieces together and understand that buying is in their future is something they could do.
Exactly. Yeah. So have that conversation. And then if we go on, the other things to think about, if you don't mind moving to the next one, is credit, because in that same vein, a lot of people don't even want to have a conversation with Jason or I because they're afraid that we're going to pull their credit, right? So the note here is that it only makes up 10% of a credit inquiry only makes up 10% of your credit score part. So first of all, it's not as huge a hit. And secondly, I'm sure Jason also, just like myself, is willing to have that conversation and just do an initial consultation and a dreams and goals call and find out. It's my chair.
Oh, that's what it is.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to move, but I talk with my hands, and even if I move my hand, the chair is squeaking. So I'm trying to sit as still as possible. I could switch chairs. Why don't we do that? That's a good idea. All right, thank you.
Now can you get the squeaky chair again?
Thank you, Jason.
I was trying to figure out whose chair it was.
I know, I was trying to sit still. I
thought it was mine, and I'm like,
just asked, I said,
stoic right
"That
now."
sound?"
I saw the look back there. I'm like trying to sit. Whoa.
There we go.
Better?
Okay, so now.
Are we okay? Are we okay? All right.
So before the squeaky chair, you were saying you have a dream call?
Yes, we do a dreams and goals call. That's the first call that we have with everybody. No credit is pulled on that call. It's just tell us what we're trying to accomplish. Let's figure out, and then let's learn if this is, a lot of the questions that we have there, we just go through a lot of different things. What are your goals? What are we trying to accomplish? What are your current plans? What are your future plans? That's what we do.
Well, and it sounds like you could do that even if you purchased a home,
Oh, of
right?
course, we do
Like
that for
if you're
everybody.
looking at investing, I noticed somebody in the comments said they're looking to purchase their first multifamily that they already own. Maybe you don't have a great relationship with your lender, or like you're
Absolutely.
looking for someone to have those conversations with.
Yes, we do it plenty of times in that way. I mean, and we've, I think of a client that I have that bought his first home 5 years ago, I want to say. And it was his first home, and we talked about in that annual review that we did with him, I said, do we have plans to buy future investment properties? He's like, I kind of want to. So then we set up how to, and then we just helped him close on his second investment property within
Wow.
a 5-year period. So because we sparked that conversation and said, and helped him see that it was possible way sooner than he thought it would have been. So it's really fun. I mean, because we get to help people grow their wealth, right? Yeah, it's a really exciting thing.
Did you have something you wanted to add in, Jason?
Yeah, when I do my consultation, there's 3 credit agencies. If you pull from all 3 of those credit agencies, that's called a hard credit. We have the ability to just pull from 2 of them, and that does not affect your credit score. And since mortgage companies always use the middle score, we can ascertain, if your situation could improve, but it won't get worse without affecting your credit. And a lot of times that gives clients a peace of mind to say, oh, good, so this is where I'm at. And I totally agree with Pinky. If you just talk with a mortgage person first, you can set a game plan for what you need to do. I've had some clients come in, oh, I gotta pay off the car, I gotta pay off the car. And you know what? Maybe it's better for you to pay off the credit card. Or maybe you think you need to pay off the credit card and it's better to pay off the car. Knowing where to put a set amount of money can make all the difference in the world in how you can be more qualified to borrow more money.
Great. I wanted to share. I'm gonna pass, type that one. We're gonna, no, you can keep
Oh,
going.
okay.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of knows that stuff.
Pay their bills on time, I hope
Yeah,
so.
yeah, go back to the one right before though. I'm gonna show, wait, the after, sorry. Keep going, next one. There we go. Right now, we're seeing a lot of this is that once you get your credit pulled, you are gonna get bombarded with phone calls. Are you getting your clients tell
So
you that?
many.
Right?
I was
So,
literally on the phone with somebody and I was doing a hard credit pull.
Yeah.
And while I'm on the phone, he's like, 2 people just tried to text me.
I had somebody told me that they got 39 phone calls in 2 hours. And of course they thought that, they're like, what did you do? I'm like, why would I want my competitors to call you? I'm like, let's think about this for a second. It was not me. I did not do that. But the credit bureaus are allowed to sell the information when you get your credit pull. So now what we're doing proactively is when we say, let's do an application start, that dreams and goals call, I will tell them, please go on to opt out to pre-screen and register yourself. So when we pull your credit, you don't have to deal with that. So
That's good.
little tip, right?
Wow.
So you'll see a reel coming out on that next week.
Sneak preview.
Sneak preview. So I just like to, because I think it's more prevalent right now, mortgage volume is down. So I think people are trying to so I think it's more than it's ever been right now is what I've seen. So just a little tip on that for whether it's an investment property or any sort of purchase.
Interest rates are artificially high. So right now they're higher than what they should be. And they're intentionally high to try to slow the rate of inflation. So if when we hit a recession, it looks like we're headed that way. The trajectory, if you watch Barry Habib, he's a mortgage professional, and he says, hey, interest rates are very likely, because they have in the past 10 recessions we've had, interest rates have come back down. What I'm telling my clients now is buy now. Because when interest rates come back down, people that once qualified for 300,000 will now qualify for 4. And the competition is going to go up on those, and it's going to drive the price of the house higher. If you buy now, lock in at a higher interest rate, just refinance in 6 months to a year, and then you're back down where you need to be. So don't let the interest rate concern you. What I would also advise clients is try not to spend money on points. Because if you're going to refinance in the next year, that money spent on points really in essence is wasted.
But what if you have, so I have a client right now that's purchasing new construction. And she was gonna put down more money so that her mortgage payments would be lower. This is her last house. So she doesn't have to worry about buying another house in the future. So I did tell her it would be better for her to buy down the points versus putting $60,000 more down on the house. Because she could probably.
In order to afford it?
To get her mortgage payment at a comfortable.
What I would advise her is understand that your mortgage payment will be there. But let's say you spend $10,000 on points and you're lowering your mortgage payment by $150. How many months would have to click off the calendar of saving that $150? Have to add up, like how many years does that come to before you've paid back that $10,000? It's a lot of years.
But putting $10,000 down to buy down the point versus $60,000 to get the mortgage down $60 doesn't make sense.
Well, that's for her level of comfort. And I totally agree that the client needs to be comfortable. But I think if a little bit of education helps them to say, all right, I'm spending $10,000 in points, and maybe in 6 months to a year, interest rates are going to drop back into maybe the 4s. And you're going to want to refinance. If you've spent that $10,000 to lower your interest rate to 5, and they drop into the 4s, you're likely going to refinance anyway. So that $10,000 you spent to lower your interest rate is really, in essence, gone. You've wasted it.
And I guess to piggyback off of it though.
Versus her putting down an additional
Well,
$60,000.
if I could add to it, Jason, what I would say to that though would be the comfort level of her to, in the spirit of what Jason's saying, to handle that, tolerate that higher payment for a short term. Who was at the recent, do you guys remember the date that Barry Habib said? Do you guys remember the date that I told you? May 10th, May 10th, all right, there we go. So sometime this summer into fall, we're expected to see better rates. So, and you know, you can refinance after a certain time period, right? So if they're comfortable tolerating that payment for some time, then maybe they could hold off on doing that. Otherwise, sometimes we make decisions, right? That we're talking about the financials, but sometimes we need to make an emotional decision because it just gives them ease. So the best financial decision may not always be the best decision for that client, because that's what's going to give them peace of mind in that moment. And we need to just go with it and let go of some of the, you know, things that we believe to be true, because that's just not going to help them feel comfortable in that moment, right? And so, and it's okay, we make decisions that are emotionally based many times, knowing that it may not be the best financial decision, right? And it's just what we have to do, because that's just what gives them peace of mind. It's okay, because that peace of mind is worth so much more, right? So that's what I would add to it.
But I think too, you can come across as giving added value to that client, saying, listen, it's totally okay if you want to buy down the points. But if you do that, you could end up spending an additional $9,000 that you wouldn't have to. So if there's risk involved.
Well, I was trying to keep her from putting down the additional, like, we
Right.
played around
Yeah, the
with the
60,000.
mortgage counts calculation.
Right.
And she was like, I want to put down more money so that my mortgage payments are, you know, 2,200 versus 24, something like that.
Right.
Like saving her a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not worth it to put down $60,000.
Right. And you're right in that comment.
Right.
From a short term, absolutely. Sometimes that's the best thing to do. And sometimes you have to. In other words, their debt to income ratio, which is how mortgages are determined, they just won't qualify if they don't buy down points. So sometimes you have to. But if you can avoid it, that's my advice to clients is, if you can avoid it, it's probably better at this juncture, because rates are likely going to come down for
Well,
next year.
she downsized.
Oh, did she?
And her house, like, she got like her house sold in one day.
That's awesome.
And she got like a ridiculous.
Hopefully you sold it.
No.
Oh.
Well, I do want to transition back, sorry, because I just looking at the clock, and I did
Sorry.
see some people in the group are still renting. So I do want to make sure that everyone who's still renting comes away from today with a takeaway to talk to a mortgage. And Pinky,
It
could
costs
you,
them nothing.
exactly, cost them nothing, and then I know, could you
Yep.
go with?
Yeah,
into some of
sure. I
this?
think savings is important, right? And somebody said it, I forget.
Amina.
Amina, right?
Yep, I wrote it down as one of my takeaways.
Yeah, short-term sacrifices for long-term gain, you know, that's what I say all the time to people. You may have to give up the Starbucks every day, right? And literally, if you do that, you're saving $100 a month more, right? So like, you can increase your savings in small ways, you know, eat out just a little bit less. There's little things that you can do that can help you save.
Well, and raindrops make waves, right? Like,
like
even
that.
if you just eat out
That's a good
less
one. I'm gonna
one
use that
time a
one.
week, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, that $100, $50 here will add up.
Yeah, and so create a budget and stick to it. And, you know, get an accountability partner many times is what it needs too, right? And we have tools that we have. So if anyone needs them for yourself or for your clients, we have a spreadsheet that we've created. We have a mobile app that we have give to our clients, because I mean, I truly believe that homeownership is a great way to build wealth for families, right? I really, really believe it in my heart, which is why I, you know, gave up what I was doing there to come here, right? So we want to help people, as many people, empower them to be able to create that, start building that wealth for themselves, and the stability and all the other emotional things that come with having a home rather than renting. So setting your budget and saving to it. And I think if you, I have the Art of Homeownership, if you go to the one that shows that, right? So, oh, the QR code's not showing there, but we've got this tool, and there's an app that comes with it, that if people can download this app, it will give them a place where they can track their spending, pull in their credit cards, pull in their bank statements, and really create a plan for themselves.
I'll send out the link with the recording.
Yeah, it's really, I think it's just a small, and again, it's not intrusive, if you will, in the sense of like, if you don't want to talk to me, you don't have to talk to me, just do that and take care of it, right? So it really is a way to just help people do that. So I think that's super important. Yeah.
There's a Community Plus program that we just have launched this last week that offers $4,500. And you can put that toward closing costs or to buy down points if you need help with that. So I know that there's different little, there's little programs, and the higher interest rates go, you find these little investors pop up and do their little jingle. So do your research and find out what works good for your client.
Are either you doing the state of New Jersey program? Okay. That's 15,000 now?
In certain counties,
Right, okay.
in certain counties, it's still 10.
And then I think there was also some talk on specifically like figuring out how something is a good investment. So I see that you put together some numbers on return.
Yeah, so what we can do is put together an investment analysis. 1 out of 6 transactions are an investment property, by the way, in the
Wow.
mortgage space. So it happens often, and that's not last year's number. I'm not sure how different it is, but 1 out of 6 are investment properties from our friend Barry Habib. You probably heard it. So what this shows is what we can put together for you is an investment analysis. And so I just picked a property kind of in the area, right? And we can just see that what the rental income is and what the cash flow is in year 1, and if you held it for 9 years. And then what your cumulative cash return is on the property. So if you go to the next one, this gives it even, like, you can see the appreciation gain and the amortization gain from holding a property. So the first couple of years, you're not positive just yet, right? But then you become positive if you're holding and not flipping, that is, right? And so you can see that again, wealth building opportunity, if you were holding property for like 9 or 10 years, is pretty great.
Well, that's where if you're holding it for college funds, right, or for your children, and as some, like, you are okay with that long-term investment.
You absolutely are. And so we can do these for any particular property, or we could do as a general one. So we can create these to help convey that message and help you. If investment is where you want to focus your energy, right, then this is a great tool that can help you do that. Yeah.
Is that it? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Awesome. And then that leaves us with 10 minutes left. So I did want to ask if there's any other questions in the chat. I don't see any other questions. Any other questions from the room attendees?
I have a comment,
Okay.
because I always have a comment. I just want to say that I really appreciate everyone's input from both panels. I think one of the takeaways, if you're renting, and I know my mom used to tell me this when I was young, shout out to her. But if you're renting, you're paying someone else's mortgage and they're making money off you. So if you want to look at it that way, you can go and buy your own condo if that's what you can afford. Doesn't have to be multifamily, single family. Just go and buy a condo, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, whatever you can afford. And I promise you, you will pay less in mortgage than you do in rent. So start saving. You will be happy that you are paying your mortgage and no one's telling you what color to paint the walls.
Or that you have to leave because they want to sell.
Or that you have to leave because they want
Or
to
that
sell.
they're gonna raise your rent.
Yeah,
Well, and you might need to put less down than you think, right? In your head,
Absolutely.
like if you have 30%, like in your head that you need to save up 30% down to buy that condo, there are mortgage vendors you can talk to that can help you understand that the goal might be more attainable.
start small.
Yes.
Start small and build your way up. Just get away from paying somebody else's mortgage.
And there's no time like the present that shows that rents continue to go up versus
Correct.
your mortgage, once it's set, it stays the same. So maybe you are paying a little bit more, aside from the fact that when you sell it, you'll get more back. Maybe you're paying a little bit more in your mortgage payment, but the long-term gain is, hey, I'm paying myself in essence.
Any other questions, comments?
One in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Can you touch on using 75% rents towards income to qualify?
Sure. So basically, if you have $1,000 in rental income on a property, when we qualify you, we use something called the debt to income ratio. So we take all of your debt and all of your income. On a rental property, we can't use the full $1,000 if that's rent. We can only use 75% of it, or $750 to qualify for the income. So did I answer that question, or is there more? Clarence or Charlene?
Charlene?
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Anything you want to add? Simple.
That's
Yeah.
very simple.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much
you, guys.
for your time, everyone, and I really appreciate it. Hope everyone on Zoom got a lot of value out of this, and everyone in person did as well. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Great way to end.
I felt so bad. That's true.